All right. You love to help women, and I want to spend some time. Let's talk to the ladies, and I think you can give us so much insight. You said that being a good girl held you back. What does that mean to you? How personal? Explain that to us, and then how can other women go, uh-oh, I see that in my own life?
Yeah, such a great question because I think it was really hard for me to say I didn't want to be a good girl because I'd been taught my whole life that you strive to be a good girl. So I remember, again, I must have been maybe 10 years old, and a guy patted me on the head and said, little girls don't speak until spoken to.
Oh,
Yeah, he actually said that.
what a
So
horrible thing to lay on a child, much less a girl.
now imagine, what's that saying? You shouldn't speak up. Your voice, your thoughts don't matter. But that is what being a good girl meant. You be quiet. You say yes. And so over time, I started to realize being that person actually was a thing holding me back from my dreams, my desires, and my vision of what my life should look like. And so I didn't want to say no to my husband when we were talking about me being a stay-at-home wife. So I ended up being a stay-at-home wife for 8 years. I wanted to be a good girl. I didn't want to tell my husband that I was unhappy. I didn't want to seem ungrateful because here I was, a stay-at-home wife. I didn't have to work. My husband was going out working every day, and I'm going to be ungrateful and tell him I want more? That's the good girl in you. That's the good girl that doesn't speak up, doesn't voice what they actually want. Now, the most amazing thing is, once I finally did speak up, it was the catalyst and the complete change to my whole life. But we so want to be respected. We want to be liked. It's in our nature. I very much believe in evolution. And so the whole point is that us women were meant to be in a village while the men were going out and hunting. And so a woman, part of her role was to make peace with the group. Because you didn't want to be isolated, you didn't want to be pushed out because you would end up being eaten by, saber-toothed tiger. So as a woman, it is embedded in us. So I do the difference between, okay, this isn't something that as a woman I should stop doing because I want to be a kind person. I want to be nurturing. I want to be a lovely human being. But I don't want to be a nice girl in detriment to my self-esteem and how I show up every day. So understanding where it comes from an evolution standpoint is very helpful. Number 2, understanding where it came from me. So identifying the guy patting me on the head and etc. Understanding what that results into. 8 years profoundly unhappy where you don't feel like you could tell your husband that you're unhappy. Once I realized all of that, I then finally realized this isn't working for me. And so the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So I started to realize, Lisa, this is on you. This doesn't mean go out and be cruel to people. This doesn't mean that you have to be mean or that you have to do the opposite. But it does mean that I have to start looking at my behavior and being honest about where it's led me. And in the same time, be then honest about what behavior I need to change and what I need to do in order to have a different life. And so that became, you know what, I have to set boundaries. I never set boundaries before because I wanted to be nice. Okay, what boundaries are you going to set? How do you set them? How do you do it with respect? So I go, cool, right now I'm in the season of learning boundaries. And so I go deep. I'll do a month of diving into podcasts and books and getting guests on my show to talk about boundaries. Then I'll practice the boundary. Then I'll get good at the boundary. Then I'll move on to the next skill. So then the next skill, right, being the nice girl, is the ability to say, I guess saying no is somewhat of a boundary, but it's about not getting pushed around. Having, let's say, the education to be able to articulate your position without getting emotional. That was very important to me because I didn't want to be the person that was just lashing out and being emotional over something. So I realized, okay, me being the nice girl was almost just shutting down my emotion. It wasn't allowing my emotion to vent. That isn't good. How do I allow my emotion out without being triggered? Okay, that means I have to do work on triggers. Let me spend the next month doing work on triggers. Then I have to do another month of looking into conversations. How do I talk to somebody without getting triggered? So I'm reading books. I'm, listening to podcasts, and I'm practicing. I never expect perfection from myself. I just say life is a game of incremental growth and improvement. So what am I working on right now? What am I working to improve? And so the whole nice girl thing really was over a year of just pulling apart all the little habits and things that I would do that I realized were actually being detrimental. Now, if anyone's listening and they don't even realize what behaviors they do, I would just say spend the next month doing an inventory list. That's it. So every day, write out something that you did that didn't actually feel right or that you did for somebody else. And start to take inventory, because every so often, I think I've said this quite a few times in this interview, we have blinders on. We don't want to like trigger ourselves, or we don't want to make ourselves feel badly, so we don't actually look at the thing. But just write out every day with no judgment. In fact, say, I love myself so much that I'm willing to do the hard work. And so once you do that, you definitely start to notice a pattern of how you show up every day in someone else's life. And so then it's, okay, I show up like this. I need to change this. How do I change it? Learn it, move on.
Yeah, just real-time observations to our audience. You can't love yourself, like you just said, until you know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You really got to know yourself before you love yourself. That's why I'm always talking about, self-awareness is a superpower. And you've just illustrated that so beautifully.